Choosing a new gaming mouse can be tough with so many great options on the market. The G Pro Superlight 2 and the Viper V3 Pro are the latest and greatest from Logitech and Razer. And with both mice asking you to sell your own kidney just to be able to afford them, it must be asked, which is better?
Leave a comment below with your thoughts on what you think is going to be the best mouse.
The G Pro uses Logitech's hybrid mechanical optical switches. Now these have a heavier feeling to them and are still very spammable, but the sound is very hollow and I'm really not a fan of it, to be honest. They also have a feeling of like popping more than clicking when you're pressing the switches down. I have been playing a lot of Gray Zone Warfare this week and the clicks have felt perfectly fine in game. However, when in Kovacs, the heavier clicks did feel like they affected my click timing when I was playing one wall 6 targets. To contrast this with the Viper, I actually hit a PR in Kovacs, and I find that the clicks feel much lighter and are pretty similar feeling to a traditional mechanical switch. So what do you prefer? Do you like something that's a heavier, poppier switch, or do you like something that's a little lighter and crispier? The scroll wheels for both mice perform and feel great. I think the steps on the Viper feel a bit better than the Logitech, which has a softer feel. I kind of like that it feels a little bit more defined and notchy. However, the Viper scroll wheel is much louder, and I do prefer the quieter nature of the scroll wheel on the GPX. So given that there's kind of a pro and a con for both, I would call this a draw between these two. Both scrolls perform great, and I really don't have any complaints. Shape is a very personal thing with gaming mice. Depending on your grip, the games you play, and your hand size, what works for me may not work for you. As stated previously, I find the G Pro to be a bit more comfortable when I use a relaxed grip. The hump on the G Pro raises up a little bit sooner than the hump found on the Viper, and this, when using an aggressive claw grip, I find to feel very similar in hand, but it's more noticeable when using those relaxed grip styles. With all that being said though, the shape of the Viper seems to lend itself to me aiming my best, and I think this is due to that narrower waist on the mouse, as well as the more pronounced grooves, creating a more consistent place to put my fingers between sessions. I really like both shapes, and to me, this is also going to be a draw because they're both excellent and there are things that I love about both. The comfort on the G Pro is great, but I aim my best on the Viper. So whichever one of those things is more important to you will really dictate which shape is better. So the weight of the Razer Viper V3 comes in at around 54 grams, where the Superlight is coming in at about 58. Now the weight difference between these two mice is pretty small, though you can feel it. I don't think it's going to be something that impacts you dramatically in game, but it is there nonetheless, so this one goes to the Viper. The battery life of the Viper and the G Pro are both excellent and are rated for about 100 hours. The Viper does have a software option that allows you to adjust the polling rate when you're not in game to save some battery life, which is great, but the G Pro, using its hybrid switches, does seem to outlast the Viper a little bit, and in my experience gives it a little bit more longevity, but really I think they're both very similar. The one thing I will say with the G Pro is it does seem to charge a little bit faster than the Viper. I don't think that's going to be a big factor for most people, but it is something that I noticed. If I was going to pick one or the other, I would say that the battery life on the G Pro does seem to edge out the Viper just a little bit, but it is pretty close. Build quality on both mice, again, is excellent. Neither mouse has any rattles or creaks. The side buttons on the GPX, though, do leave something to be desired because they're much mushier than what you find on the Viper. Everything on the Viper just feels maybe 5 to 10% better tension and is a little bit more precise with the implementation. So I'm gonna give this one to the Viper, but only slightly. Over the last week or so, I've really come around to liking that waxier coating on my Viper V3 Pro, and with some use, it feels to be a little bit less sticky than it did prior, which is great. The G Pro in white, however, has a more chalky coating in comparison, and it reminds me a lot of that Lamzu Thorn, which I stated in a previous video is actually my favorite coating. So this one I'm actually going to give to the G Pro, but you really can't go wrong with either coating. They both feel great in hand. I don't think there's anything wrong with either of them, but if I had to pick a coating to put on both mice, I would pick the one on the G Pro. The sensor performance with both of these mice feel great. I don't have a way to track the actual performance or chart it in a meaningful way, but the Viper does have the option to go to 8K if that's something that you're interested in, where the G Pro only has the option to now go to 4K. So I'm gonna give this one to the Viper just because from a technological standpoint, it's improved or better, but they're very similar and you're not gonna have a bad experience with either mouse. So to wrap this up, both mice are awesome. The Viper did end up winning by one category, but honestly, it could have went either way. These are just my opinions after all, and both of these mice are phenomenal. They're priced the same, so really I think for most people, it's just gonna come down to what shape do you prefer. If you like the little bit larger hump, the more potato shape, the G Pro is the way to go. If you want something that's a little bit lower profile, then I think the Viper is the way to go. I do think the side buttons on the Viper feel a lot better and I like the clicks. So for me, the Viper is the one that's gonna be staying on my desk, but you know, you really couldn't go wrong with this one either. Thanks so much for watching. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and leave me a comment down below. If you have any thoughts or feedback on this video, I would love to hear it. And until next time, we'll see ya.